No.
Okay.
No.
Okay, call the March 17th meeting to order, and sorry for the slight delay on that. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let the students go first.
roll call.
George Andrews,
Present.
Rebecca Bear,
Present.
Ann Cotrillo,
Here.
Mike Cotrillo,
Here.
Jason Goldstrom,
Present.
Steve Carcutt,
Present.
Debbie Kulik,
Present.
Wayne Broner,
Here.
Rich Schneeman,
Present.
9 present.
We welcome all of our guests and ask if anyone has not signed in, to do so at some point, so we have a record of people attending. We had an executive session was held on March 7th, 2025 for the purpose of discussing personnel, and an executive session was held this evening before this meeting for the purpose of discussing personnel, litigation, negotiations. Okay, we have the motion to adopt the agenda for March 17th as submitted with the Board of Education.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, approval of the minutes. Motion to approve the minutes of the February 24th, 2025 board meeting.
So moved. Second.
Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we're going to go to our superintendent's report, but we are going to start with our,
Can we defer to our students?
we are going to start with our students this evening. So, Alyssa, you are on from North High School.
Good evening, school board, faculty, and guests. To introduce myself, my name is Alyssa Dina. I'm a senior at East Stroudsburg North, and I'm honored to be your student representative. I'm just gonna wait till our presentation is up.
While we're waiting, our MCTI rep couldn't come. Do you want me to go over that?
Okay, that's good.
So it was good evening, school board members, administration, and guests. My name is it Nyla or Nayla? Nayla Joseph, and I am the MCTI student representative. On Wednesday and Thursday, February 26th and 27th, culinary students competed in Pro Start here, and here are the results. 2 students placed third, so Sanaya DuBois from North and Amani Carolina from North also placed third place in cake decorating. Amber Beckworth placed second place in management and culinary. On March 11th, 2025, graphic communication students competed in the media and design competition at Northampton Community College. And here are those results. Jocelyn Uresco earned second place for logo and design competition in the graphics communications. March is NOCTI month, and all program instructors and their students are preparing diligently for success. NOCTI is the National Occupation Competency Testing Institute. It's an organization that creates assessments to measure the skills and knowledge of students in various vocational and technical fields. These tests are used to ensure that students are ready for the workforce with the necessary skills in their chosen careers. This concludes my report.
Okay, Alyssa, you are on.
So we're gonna start off with academics. So we want to send our congratulations to a sophomore named Jaden Batoon for winning first place in the High School North Spelling Bee Championships. Jaden is not only our defending champ, but he's also the 2024 Russell C. Hughes Monroe County champion. Senior Jaden Gatson secured second place and will join Jaden Batoon at the senior level county choir county championships at April 7th at Stroudsburg Junior High School. And in addition, junior Amelia Damahati finished third place and will be an alternate. So we're gonna move on to some arts. On March 5th, the North High School and Lehman 7th and 8th grade choirs came together for their annual department concert. Each group showcased their talents with strong performances, and they ended the note with a combined choir rendition of Imagine by the Beatles. It was really amazing. I really liked it. And now congratulations to Valentina Godiva. She earned a spot in the PMEA Region 5 Choir Festival. She'll be performing at Bethlehem Area School District on March 20th to the 21st and has an opportunity to audition for the PMEA State Choirs in April. The festival will conclude with a concert in Northeast Middle School Auditorium on March 21st at 7:30 p.m. As part of Music in Our Schools Month, the North Chorale will have the incredible opportunity to perform at the Pennsylvania State Capitol Rotunda on March 21st. If you can see, that's a picture from last year when we performed. We will have, in addition to this performance, we will have the opportunity to tour the Capitol and meet with legislators. I believe we will be meeting with Senator Rosemary Brown. And yeah, it will be really fun. This will be a really memorable experience. And with April approaching, guys, get excited because we will be performing Seussical the Musical. The show opens on April 4th at 7 p.m. with additional performances on April 5th at 7 p.m. and April 6th at 3 p.m. And I hope you all come because someone you may know might be wearing a really large hat and whiskers. So, you know. Yeah.
Alyssa, I
Yeah.
believe it'd be really protocol to sing a song for us. All
No,
right, we'll get this in time next time.
you
Next time.
see the show to see that.
Okay. Don't worry. I'll do that.
So we're going to talk about some sports. Logan Cruz's incredible performance at the District 11 swim meet earned him first place in the 100 breaststroke. He will represent East Stroudsburg North at the PIAA competition at Bucknell University on March 13th. We also supported him. We created a spirit tunnel, the entire school. It was a surprise for him. While he was going to the buses for states, we actually all cheered for him and he was really surprised. I wish I had a video. I believe it is on the North Twitter page if you want to check that out. And we're going to end with some extracurriculars. We are thrilled to announce that the Women in STEM Club has advanced to the state level competition for the Governor's STEM competition. They'll be competing in late April at State College and representing East Stroudsburg North. And this is a really big thing because out of all public, private, and charter schools in the state, only 20 were selected, and North just happened to be one of them. And on March 13th and 14th, the North Tech crew supported Bushka Elementary's spring production of Willy Wonka Jr., and they provided sound and technical services. Special thanks to the crew members Dylan, Hugo, and Hiroto, with the crew advisor Sean Edwards for making this possible. And finally, the Future Educator cohort traveled to the Colonial Intermediate Unit 12, where they explored variety careers in education. They learned about fields such as occupational therapy, mental health services, physical therapy, and special education. And with that, I close my report. Thank you all for your attention, and I hope you like learning about the amazing things that happened this month.
Hey, thank you, Alyssa, and all the best to you and the crew with the play. I appreciate that.
Cannot wait to see it.
Yes. Carl.
Hi. All right. Every month I kind of think I'll be scrambling for things, but somehow my reports fill up. So we had another great thing, a great month of things at South. You all should have a flyer, I believe. But I'll get started with our 5th grade Science Day. It's a great event. It's an effort with our science department and our gifted program to run this event. This year, we kind of one-upped last year and brought all 6 elementary schools to the high school, all of the 5th graders. Our department chair, one of our science department chairs, Mr. Scott, held like a kind of session and did some demonstrations in the auditorium. And they rotated through 3 sessions with our science teachers to learn about different things. And it's a great event really just to get them excited about science and learn from our high school teachers. I know there was like chemistry demonstrations. They got to build rockets and launch them. ESU came and there were demonstrations on recycling. So it was a really great event. And moving to our freshman experience day, we brought all of the 8th grade students from JTL to the high school on February 26th to give them a taste of high school and what their next school year will be like. There was an activity fair in the cafeteria where all of our extracurriculars and sports presented. And actually I believe it was 45 clubs and sports registers. So it was a big year for that. They heard from a panel of current freshmen and got tours of the building. And we're so excited to welcome them for the next school year. And our NHS and Red Cross Club worked together to host a blood drive on March 7th. And the drive was very successful. We had 47 people sign up and a total of 40 donations collected, which surpassed the goal of 28. So we were very excited about that. And I have our Colonial Intermediate Unit Hiring Day. Our introduction to special education students were able to learn interview skills, apply for clearances, explore various careers, and have discussions in the area of special education at the Colonial Intermediate Unit. And I wanted to make a side note that Mr. Zoll will be meeting with the students on March 24th to discuss district employment opportunities. So that's very exciting. Kind of full circle, you know? And our project search applicants have sent in their applications. Ante Gates, Deshaun Thomas, Tayshawn Thomas, and Donovan Hubbard completed their interviews, and they hope to be selected to spend the next school year at Kalahari, learning vital work skills for their futures. Our 12+ students also visited a local radio station. They wanted to thank Danny Ocean and other DJs at 93.5, Poco 103, and Bigfoot Country, who gave kind of a tour, answered lots of questions, and kind of explained what it takes to have a radio station. So that was a very exciting trip for them. And I also wanted to shout out our media and design regional competition students that competed and placed. For first place in 3D design, John Schlemus, Paxton Szymanski, and Mia Gardina. For first place in animation, Caitlin Mayer, Allison Mayer, and Pablo Soto Moreno. Third place in animation, Brianna Pico and Madison Jimenez. First place in web design, Elena Ely and Emily Anise. Second place in web design, Jules Richmond. Second place in programming, Kundwani Keat and Miguel Viana. And third place in programming, Amisa Ellis and Jameer Grant. So that was very exciting. We had lots of students compete at Northampton Community College for that. Now, I do have some backdating on Teachers of the Month since we last saw. I've got 2 months in here. So the following teachers were named: Mrs. Jennifer Andrews, English teacher, science teacher, Miss Katrina Newman, our athletic director, Miss Denise Rogers, and our dean of students, Miss Stephanie Reese, were recognized for all of their hard work at South, and we really appreciate them. Next, I wanted to shout out our Sadie Hawkins dance, which was arranged and hosted by the Minithon Committee to raise money for the event in April. Everyone attended the dance and got a taste of what Minithon is like through various activities. So it was a great night and very fun. And I did want to say we have about 170 students now registered on Donor Drive for our Minithon event, which is coming up soon. I believe it's 18 days today. And moving on to some music, South hosted the Region Band Festival of more than 140 students who went through a rigorous audition process. Sydney Ort, Maya McDonald, and Gianna De La Cruz from South participated. And I also did photobomb that picture. I got to play piano for 2 of the songs, so that was very fun. South also hosted on March 5th the department band concert. Our guest conductor, Laura Estes, premiered a new piece of music at the concert, so that was very exciting. And the Choraleers performed at Shawnee Playhouse as part of their cabaret series last month, and it was a very appreciative audience, and it was great. And I just wanted to shout out quickly some upcoming events for you. Mark your calendars. So our unified track and field team has 1 home meet this year. As you all know, unified sports are great. They bring together athletes with and without intellectual disabilities, and they're equal teammates. They train together, compete together, become friends, and it's treated like every other interscholastic sport at our school. So their only home meet is April 2nd at 3:30, and you are all encouraged to attend. And lastly, our spring musical is also coming up soon. It is Disney's Descendants, based on the popular movie franchise. And the shows are March 28th through the 30th. And that's all I have this month. Thank you so much.
Okay, and we thank our Timberwolves and our Cavaliers and both an MCTI and here for always making us proud to be part of the district. Thank you so much. Okay, we're going to go to the superintendent's report.
So we're going to start. I'm going to defer some of my time to an old friend. So Dr. Tolino, you are up with Mr. Jacobson and Chief Parrish.
Welcome back.
Is that all for the goal?
No, Chief.
What I will say is that I've been on that side of the table for 24 years. And I think oftentimes as board members and school administrators, we hear some of the some of the things about schools that aren't the best, but when you look at these two kids and kids like this every month that we've heard reports from, in my case, in 24 years, every month, it tells us that the world's in good hands. So just so proud of the two of you and the way you handle yourselves and the things that are going on in these schools. It's incredible. Incredible. So here's why I'm here. I'm here because of Jake, and I'm here because of Chief Parrish. They called me a while ago, and there's a grant that came to Monroe County. It's a pilot grant from the state of Pennsylvania, and it's called the Community Partnership for Gun Safety. And there's really any number of reasons why it's out there. Not the least of which is because, and the easiest way for me to explain it, is we're trying to get people to come to terms with how they store their guns. And there's reasons for that. 2/3 of every home in Monroe County has a legal weapon in it. So that might be shocking to some people. It's a rather interesting number. But there are some people that decide that they have to store their weapons in a way that are not appropriate. And what happens is kids get into those houses, and as many times you tell your children not to do something, they're going to do it when there's a friend in the house, and suddenly someone's going to be shot, be killed or maimed through what we call an unexpected discharge, because they don't know how to handle that weapon. They've never been trained to do that, right? They only know that it's something that, oh, wow, this is cool. Let's take a look at it. Next thing you know, someone's killed or maimed. So we're working on programs to deal with that. The other side of it is clearly the handling side. The grant is also going to allow us to provide the storage, to provide safety locks to people, provide training to people. And then, of course, the third part of that, which is so very, very important, is if you have someone in your home in Monroe County that's struggling with a mental health issue, through the sheriff's department, this grant is being offered through obviously the county commissioners, but most importantly, it's being run through the prosecutor's office as well and the sheriff's department. The sheriff's department will store those weapons for you if you ask. We're not going to take your guns from you. That's a comment that was we had to deal with at another school district. But if you ask, we will come and we will store those weapons for you in the sheriff's department. So that's really the grant in a nutshell. But something that's very intriguing. Well, so why did Monroe County get this grant out of all the other counties in the state of Pennsylvania? Well, because Monroe County ranks higher than the state and national average in suicide by handgun from males. That's a problem. That's clearly a problem. So, of course, you have the mental health component in there, which we're dealing with, and that's what Bill Parrish, and I want to introduce these guys. I'm sorry I didn't do that. Chief Bill Parrish, who's a retired police chief from the Stroud Regional, also the chief at East Stroudsburg University. And Bill, you have anything you need to add?
District Attorney's Office working on a unified response to mental health and law enforcement to those in crisis. They're just sending a uniform and a gun every crisis call.
So Bill will be the person that we reach out to when we realize that there's somebody that, if the household has someone with a mental health issue and they want to get their guns out of the house, we'll get the guns out of the house. But Bill will also be the one that tries to coordinate the mental health services for that individual in the household. And of course, Jake serves on the Stroudsburg area school board. He's currently the board president. He was on the school board when I was superintendent there. We've known each other for quite some time. So he's the one that called me and said, hey, read this grant because it might be something you're interested in. This is as far from something I ever thought I'd be involved in, but I looked at the mission and said, you know what? Yeah, we're going to do this. I want to be involved in this. It's important stuff. Jake is a Gulf War veteran. He's also a retired police officer and detective from Stroud Area Regional. So he's been in the community he grew up here. He probably knows all of you better than anybody. He knows a lot of people. We can't go anywhere without Jake not knowing somebody. And he's been a great partner in this. So we're just getting into this grant. So why am I here in front of the school district? I'm here because as part of the grant through a third-party group, there's a survey that's being funded. And the survey is for students, and we're also going to be including some adults in the survey. It's two different surveys. The survey questions have been validated nationally, so it's not like we made up questions. We decided to do this. The survey will be completely anonymous, so we will never be able to figure out who provided the answers to the questions. It'll be done through SurveyMonkey. So that's what we're asking for. I would never put you guys in a spot to ask for an answer tonight. I would like you to talk about it. I understand how difficult those conversations can be. I did bring along some of the questions that would be asked as part of the survey. It should take about 15 minutes is all we expect. And it's some really important information that we need to do our work going forward. So I'll provide some of the questions to you right now. One of the questions, and you would answer these strongly agree, somewhat disagree, and strongly disagree. I think people worry too much about guns. People would look up to me if I had a gun. I wish there weren't any guns in my neighborhood. People should be allowed to have a gun if they want one. I'd feel nervous around someone with a gun. I respect people who carry a gun. Sometimes using a gun is necessary. So that's the type of information we're trying to get, and it goes on. There's more questions to that. But that's some of the information we want to get so that we can conduct our work. Ultimately, where we want to end up is to be running programs, not in the schools, because that's the question that came up at PV. They thought that we wanted to put a curriculum, actually, I shouldn't say that. 103.1, Gary C. in the morning had Jake and I on last week, and he said, well, are we going to put curriculum in the schools? And I said, absolutely not. That's not what this is about. This is a community project. So where we envision this going, for educational programming would be running programs in firehouses and in different venues on a Saturday or on a Friday night or whenever for people that can make it, that believe in this message, that want to learn how to store their weapons properly, and also the rest of what the grant is all about, the mental health side of it. We already have Quantify Media right here in East Stroudsburg is on board with us to handle all of our marketing and also our logoing and branding for this grant. We started a little bit late, so we're about 6 months behind, but we're doing a pretty good job in trying to catch up and get our message out there. So that's why I'm here tonight. Did not want to spend a lot of time, but wanted to get our message across, and we'll be more than happy to answer any questions should you have any right now.
What's the age of the survey? So what age group are you looking
We
for?
would like to get all high school kids right now. Dr. Vitale, and there's a reason when I was being asked about this as a school person, right? I think that's clearly one of the reasons why they want to be involved. I think some of the pushback you'd get if we decided to go K through 6 or K through 8 would be a completely different story. So that's why we're staying away from that. My recommendation was to stay away from that. Let's look at the high school kids right now. That's our audience that we really want to get involved with and gather information from.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Other questions or
Any other
comments?
questions? My comment would just be thank you. I mean, what you're doing is so needed, especially the mental health component and the safety and the storage, which is, something you don't think of,
Yeah.
a place to store if necessary. So thank you for your work.
I'll share a real quick point. The way that I explained this to my 88-year-old mother, I said, Mom, I could take you right now to a local shop and we could purchase you a gun. Wouldn't be a problem at all. It's all legal. Everything the state requires. And then we could take you to the sheriff's department, and in a month, if you have 2 references, which she would wind up getting, you could conceal carry a weapon. But during neither one of those 2 parts of the process would she ever be required to be trained how to use that gun or store that gun properly. That's a problem, right? And again, it's not a problem with the local businesses. That's not what this is about. It's a bigger issue for all of us, because then what we have is situations that occur all the time where we have 2 12-year-olds run into a room where someone's handling a weapon and one of them recently gets shot. That was during my time here at East Stroudsburg. We have a 17-year-old and 18-year-old that are allegedly wrestling out in Tunkhannock, and the 18-year-old winds up shooting and killing the 17-year-old because claims the gun fell off the shelf. And it turns out the story changed after that. So there's these stories all the time. And just recently, we heard the story of a 12-year-old little boy who got his hands on his father's gun and shot his 6-year-old sister, killed her. So those unexpected discharges for people that don't know how to handle weapons, that's a problem. It's clearly a problem. Not to mention some of the stories that we could all talk about, and I'm not going to do that, with the mental health component, with people that are brandishing guns that are hoping to suicide by cop, right? No police officer ever wants to walk onto the job and expect to kill somebody that day. That's just not appropriate. So it's all those pieces that we're trying to work on and try to make a difference.
Mr. Crowder?
I had a quick,
Just like to add from my point of view, as law enforcement, and the grant funding comes from the state. individuals may, especially when you talk about storing guns, think this is the first step into taking guns. That is not the case. You've heard the numbers of guns in households. It'd be irresponsible not to address safety measures within homes. I don't know how many individuals have told me in my career that their gun is under the pillow in a nightstand because they need it at the moment that that person breaks into their house. Statistics show that gun is more likely to be an accidental discharge or used recklessly in those situations. So we need to get that education. I was a DARE instructor in the middle school for 10 years. I know when DARE first came out about drugs, there was a lot of pushback by parents that we were teaching kids about drugs. Now we were learning on the drugs on their own, probably on the school bus on the way to school, but we need to filter this down younger, but we also know the pushback when you don't want to see that innocence in those children. But they're the ones that are going to pick up that gun out of innocence if it's not stored properly, and tragedy will happen. So that's our emphasis. My emphasis here is, again, this is not in any way a subterfuge in order to get people's guns. We know they're there. We just want them safe.
We have no problem with them being there, but store them safely. Put yourself in a position of whether one of your young children or a grandchild, in my case, going into a household. Jake?
Okay.
No, I'm good.
No, I just wanted to say, I received the call, after the grant. I know, John spoke about, we started late. I received the call in July, the grant started in April. And while I was chosen, I guess, Gulf War veteran, retired police officer, and corporate, and reading the grant, I knew it's gonna take a team. And at the time, Dr. Polino was sitting right in your seat. And we're talking, and probably talking like, okay, when we be talking soon. And he was actually doing an interview with you, Doc. And
It was a great night, apparently.
well, and I said, wait a minute, so you're soon gonna be retired?
Again.
What a better person for on the team. And this guy, he's got gray hair, his dad said. Why do you got gray hair?
90% of this guy.
That's why he has no hair.
Bottom line, this, I couldn't ask for a better team, and, you know, we're never gonna know how many lives we save, because you're just not gonna know. However, whether it's 1 or whether it's 5, if it's 1, it's huge. But that number's gonna be there. It's very important to us. We're here because, you know what, everybody here really cares. And that's why we're here. So we appreciate your support. Wednesday, we're gonna go from the Stroudsburg School Board.
Yeah, a little nervous about that.
I'll be sitting over
There you go.
So I can't decide what happened to where that might.
Mr. Petro, there's a question from Mrs. Kulik. I don't know if you mind if I.
For organizations or individuals who would be interested in becoming involved, is there a website? Is there a way that they can contact someone?
Great question. We, Quantify Media is going to handle the website for us. That's all part of the grant.
Is
We
it,
also have-
it's forthcoming?
It will be forthcoming website, and we're going to be running, any mail, will be going through, the prosecutor's office. But the website will also be up, and we're probably several months away from the website because we're behind in the grant. And we just got together with Quantify Media on Friday. Jake and I met with them, and they're gearing up, so we're getting going. So
If
the answer
there-
is yes.
If there are organizations that are interested in hosting classes, where would they go right now? Where would they
You can
start?
reach out to
They
us.
should be.
I should have brought my car.
Yeah, Mark, you can help everybody.
Okay,
I only have one. Yeah, I don't, yeah.
What do you got?
I've got one here, Jake.
Well, we all
Yes, collectively, they can come up with
Yeah.
9 cards.
Debbie, you can call me.
Not before.
We don't want him on speed dial right now.
Before.
So, Yeah, you can just give us a call and we'll get information for you.
you.
Debbie, we're also looking at training people on Stop the Bleed.
Thank you.
So I know with your involvement, that's probably something that we could probably talk about as well.
Yeah,
Okay,
we'll talk offline. Thank you.
everybody, thank you so much for your time. It's great seeing
Thank you.
everybody again. Be well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your work. Appreciate it.
Oh, okay. I thought you were just.
Okay, we're going to go back to Dr. Vitale
For real this time.
for real, the real doctor.
Gentlemen, thank you so much. We appreciate your time, truly. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I shared it, Anthony.
Thank you.
I did.
Thanks again, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nice to see you.
Thank you.
See you again.
So this is going to be the highlight of your evening and we are going to do a data dive.
I already watched.
Is everybody ready?
Yeah.
Are we excited about this? I'm sure Anthony's gonna bring it up soon. There it is. Anthony, is it not working in Zoom? In Zoom, I'm sharing my screen.
It was there.
It was there. No, he was bringing it up in PDF. Hold on, I just stopped sharing. Okay. Okay, that sounds good. Everybody has it in front of them. That's a different one.
No,
That's Mr. Bart's.
I do that.
Mine says data dive.
Start diving.
So I could do this all day, so I will try to be as brief as possible. Tonight's topics, we're gonna go over state assessments, building level scores, ADM and enrollment and attendance, and then parent-teacher conference data and teacher efficacy. There are a million data points we could talk about. We're gonna start here. So if you remember a few months ago, I gave this amazing analogy of a scoreboard, and I'm leaning into it. So you cannot equate these data points with anybody's effort or dedication. So even though sadly the Eagles won the Super Bowl, it doesn't mean that the Chiefs didn't put in all of their effort, a season worth of energy. They still worked hard and prepared. The outcome just was not as it should have been.
I don't like that analogy.
I know you don't. But
And we're all wearing
everyone
green
does.
tonight.
What?
And we're all wearing green tonight.
We are. All right, so state assessment scores, just to level set, just so everybody's on kind of the same playing field, if we're gonna lean into that analogy. So for ELA, we do PSSAs in grades 3 through 8, Keystone in grade 9. Mathematics, we do PSSAs grade 3 through 8, and then Keystone for Algebra 1 trigger course. Science is currently grades 4 through 8, changing to 5 through 8 soon. And Keystone biology course. Why do we care? And honestly, should we care? Yes. So should we care? Yes. How much we should care? We'll put that on you. So at the district level, we look at these assessment scores based on our core programming. So what are we offering our students? How is our curriculum? Are we meeting our students' needs? When we see low level scores, it's usually like, we need to look at core programming. So that's the district level. Building level looks at how are they implementing the curriculum and the programs that we're offering, and how are they meeting the needs of their students. Classroom level, it's really talking about how is the teacher implementing the curriculum and how are students responding to it. And then at the individual student level, it's looking only at growth. So we're looking to see that the students are growing from year to year, and then what standards they are not growing in and how we can intervene. So you take one data point and there's 4 different lenses for each data point, depending on what seat you're in. Okay, caution. Our district is full of brilliant, engaged, hardworking students. Talented scholars, artists, musicians, and athletes, dedicated, caring faculty and staff, committed, focused learners. These numbers that you're going to see are not the prettiest of numbers. They're not the numbers we're going to write home about, but they are not going to define us as a district. They're going to show us where we need to improve and set the path for improvement. But again, they do not indicate that our students are not amazing, that our faculty is not strong, and that there is anything wrong with anything other than the system itself needs to improve. I am not going to go over, Anthony, if you want to go to the next one, I'm not going to go over every data point. I'm just going to highlight that I'm giving you this information so you have it. So these are ELA tests for PSSAs over the course of 3 years. I have mapped it out. I want to say for 7 or 8 years. I'm only giving you 3 years because there's only so many numbers you can look at. You really want to look at the green column. The green column is the number of students who are proficient in advanced annually. And you can see that bottom number in that like beige row is whether we have grown or not from 1 year to the next. So if you look at 3rd grade, we grew 4.1% compared to last year, just so you can kind of understand the chart. The next chart is grades 6th, 7th, and 8th grade in, again, that PSSA structure. And you can see kind of the numbers are not showing as much growth. I would say anything to, I don't know, 3% or less is statistically not a concern to me. So if we grew or not 3% or less within that window, that's a good standard deviation for me, not to kind of throw everything out and say we need to start new. So the next chart is super important to me. It's the cohort chart. So what I was just showing you is how 3rd graders perform in 3rd grade. The cohort chart shows you how the same group of students takes the test in 3rd grade, then 4th grade, then 5th grade. So it's following that group of students. This is the most alarming to me. We should see these numbers growing in each box, that when they're with us more, we're seeing significant growth. Every year they're improving. It's scattered for ELA. And to me, we need to kind of understand why. But whoever is teaching you data and talking to you about data, this is really important data because it's the same group of students. And you're seeing how they perform. There are pockets of times when maybe your 5th graders last year just really struggled. Or maybe you had a whole bunch of long-term subs in there. Whatever the reason is. And then the following year, they're going to do better or worse. So there's always anomalies when you look at just a grade level. This really helps you to see longitudinally how students are doing. Then you go to the next chart, another important chart, and this is really state comparison. So I have said over and over again, and you will hear me say this, we're never going to be 100% proficient. We're public education. We accept all students. 100% proficiency is unreasonable. That goes back to like the old No Child Left Behind. And by 2014, we're going to be 100% proficient. It was the most ridiculous thing ever. However, we better be at state or above state average, because what this means is that our students are going into the world below proficiency level of the people they're competing with to get into college, for jobs locally. So not that state average is something to be proud of, but to me, I'm always shooting to be green in that comparison, not yellow. So I want to be above state average. That way our students can be competitive. Questions thus far?
The only thing I would maybe point out is when we are even doing the overall comparative part, we know that we do have a good percentage of students who aren't here, K through 12. So we don't know, you know, when those new students are coming in.
We're going to get
and
to
when
that.
the other students are coming out. I'm just, I mean, I know it's coming, but
Yeah.
just in terms of these numbers.
And just in Mrs. Catrillo's kind of to add to that, I have had one of our data gurus figure out by grade level how many students in each grade level have been with us since that grade level. So from kindergarten on. So I now have that data for every single year of our students, and we're going to continually track that so we can track our efficacy across the 13 years, which is really important to me.
Yes. And the other thing is too, for the state tests, any family who opts their student out, that
Was
counts
below
as below basic for us.
Correct.
So whatever our percentage is, of students who are not taking the test, they are measured in here as below basic.
And that's a really important note. So families who choose to opt out for whatever reason, whether religious beliefs or just they have the right to opt out, it goes as below basic against the district. Also, last year, the state of Pennsylvania changed PASA. So PASA is the Pennsylvania Alternative Assessment. So it's for our students who have lower cognitive functioning. They changed that only 1% of your population may take it. So many more students who used to take PASA now are taking the PSSAs when we know that they're in life skills programming. And that has a huge impact on it as well. And that started in 2024.
Are you able to disaggregate the data and say these students who've been here for all 13 years compared to those who weren't?
Yes.
Okay.
That's
Do I
what
have it today?
No,
but I
but
can.
That's what I wanted
Yeah.
to say too. Yeah, I mean, especially when we look at our special education population is at 22, 24%.
It's about
something like that.
24.
Yeah, and only 1% of that
right.
can take
Right.
the
That's
alternative
just-
test. So you're having 23% taking a test where
Correct.
they may not, obviously cognitively be able to take the
Right.
test.
And do we know how many opt out a year as well within that number?
I don't, but I can get that
Yeah, that I
information.
think so. I know with my last year's as principal, that number was rising. Like
There was conversation
an
about it.
amazing increase.
Just opt out.
You know, that we
Yes.
had
They
so
didn't
many
see the
people.
better,
And I think we just need to publicly, and thank you, Mrs. Petrillo, highlight that when you opt out, it goes as below basic.
right.
Which also, if you're talking the keystones, affects their Act 150
Sure.
graduation pathway.
Right.
Because once you have a below basic on a keystone, you can no longer do pathway 1, 2, or 3.
Right.
I mean, we were as high, I remember for one test in Keystones, as 20 students opting out. And we were testing, 100 and something.
Right.
So when you take 20, you're starting with, that amount of people who are out of
Right.
already below basic before you even tested anybody. Which is kind of crazy, but that's not for us to decide, I guess.
I'm sorry, we've gotten off track.
No, you're
Yeah.
fine. I asked if there were questions. I appreciate it. And I could stay here all night and talk about this, so I am in no hurry to finish up this slide deck. Mr. Bard loves this because
Oh,
we're
I
just
like this.
delaying his numbers.
I like this, I like the information.
So the next slide is just the Keystone Literature. So that's 10th grade students who take our literature course. That's the trigger course, and that's their proficiency rating. And then again, you have that state comparison chart, which is the next chart, Anthony, of where we are in comparison to the state, which again is how competitive our students are going to be when getting into college, going to the workforce. We need to make some changes there. So the next few charts are math. Math is going to be not as pretty of a picture as ELA. So our scores in math consistently go down every year as students grow. So grade 3 starts off pretty high. And then as they go 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, it gets lower and lower. When we look at 8th grade PSSAs, you always just have to factor in that students who are in Algebra 1 are not necessarily getting all of 8th grade math standards. So traditionally, 8th grade scores are lower than every other year because the pocket of students who take Algebra 1 do not always perform well on the 8th grade PSSA because it's 8th grade standards. And that's okay. So I have always said I would much rather them take Algebra 1 because it's more advanced and to move them on and know that 8th grade scores are going to be a little wonky, and I'm okay with that because then we're progressing them to higher level maths earlier. The next slide then is that cohort data. Again, this is a much bleaker picture than ELA, but we know we can move forward. So we now know this data, we understand it, and we know, and Mr. Snyder started today, and he's going to fix it all by Thursday. No pressure.
He's gonna fix the budget too by Thursday.
The next slide
Guess we don't-
is the PSSA math state comparison. Again, as you notice, As every year goes up, our scores go down, and then the gap between the state level and our proficiency ratings keeps widening. If we can go to Algebra 1. So this is alarming. So when you look at Algebra 1, so if you think of students in 8th grade that take Algebra 1, those are typically the top of the class. They're the most advanced students, and their proficiency rating isn't the highest, which really tells me that it's a core curricular concern, not a student concern. It has nothing to do with our students. It really has to do with the programming that we're offering them, and we need to delve in and understand it better.
But these scores aren't just the 8th grade algebra 1, these are
No,
all of them.
But they're included in it.
Right.
Correct. These are, and thank you, Mrs. Catrola. So the scores you're looking at, so for 2024, 613 students. That does not mean in 2024, 613 students took it. It means the 11th graders who were in 11th grade in 2024, that's how they performed on the Algebra 1 Keystone. So it could be the 11th grader who took it in 8th grade or 9th grade or 10th grade or 11th grade. So it's really lagging data for us to make a lot of decisions on, because half of these students could have taken it 4 years ago.
And some of these students, they test poorly in Algebra 1, but then they go on and take advanced statistics.
Correct. They're
calculus.
passing the course and
Right.
being successful in the course.
Right.
They're just not showing proficiency level in the assessment.
Or they're
Correct.
passing calculus. as well.
Absolutely.
Maybe
Right.
they're passing
They're in
the
Calc
AP cal-
BC.
Right.
Maybe passing the AP exam.
So some of these students, 17% proficient, we have Calc BC, which is the highest level of calculus.
Right.
How? We have multivariable calculus.
Correct.
So it's like these numbers are not commensurate with the courses that we offer or the student success. Again, state comparison against the Algebra 1 Keystone. We are not where we need to be competitive with the state. Science PSSAs, in full disclosure, science is always what all school districts brag about, right? It's the highest score. So we're in alignment with that. And then the state comparison, 4th grade is scoring higher against the state, 8th grade, not so much. Anthony, I'm whizzing through these. And then biology, we're making gains with biology in the last year, but last year might have been an anomaly compared to kind of 2022 and 24 really match. When you look at the state comparison, again, we're not where we need to be in comparing with the state. Okay. That was a lot. We have a lot more to go over, but any basic general conversations about state assessments and scores? I will never give this to you in this big of a chunk again. So we'll give the scores usually in July or August. So we'll parse this out. This is an anomaly, but I just wanted you to know what I've been spending my time doing. Building level scores. So I'm going to show you building level scores. What?
No,
I'm getting
we'll
that.
we'll
We'll table it.
Great.
Yeah,
Who
we're
loves-
getting data. I love that.
I mean, and we're thankful because it's so nice to finally see stuff like that.
So my caution with building level scores is I do not want you comparing one school to another. This should not be this school got this and this school got this, so this school is better. Please do not use them against one another. Okay, so building level scores are super, super complex formulary. So it includes state assessment measures of proficiency and growth, and then those subgroup scores of students who are ELD, English language learners, special education, and then historically underperforming. It also includes on-track measures. So it looks for your ELD students, their growth and attainment. It looks at attendance measures, and then grade 3 and grade 7, grade 3 reading, grade 7 math proficiency rates. Then you have your college and career ready measures of your career standards, your graduation rate for your cohort of 4 years, your cohort of 5 years, your industry competencies, so like your NOCTI, rigorous course of study, and then post-secondary transition. All that gets put in to some sort of formula and gets spit out. So the next side is your chart. It's on a 100-point scale, and these are how your buildings are scoring over the last 5 years. And then I gave you that 5-year average because I found it interesting to report out that average compared to where we're at right now. 2020 and 21 did not have scores because there were no PSSAs then. So that's why there were no building scores then. These scores are part of the teacher evaluation and the principal evaluation. These scores go into the rubric and teachers are rated based on these scores. Just so you know, this is an incredibly important number. Questions about building scores?
I just have a question. What is there a reason why, if you look at the elementary level students, the numbers are like pretty decent, then they hit middle school and drop off, but then they hit high school and pick back. These are the same students. We're comparing the same students here.
Yeah, looking at that too.
I'm sorry?
I would argue attendance. I would argue proficiency rates on assessments, growth of PVOS scores.
Because the 2018.
And that's something I need to dig into and compare future ready index of why some are higher and what some are not.
I'm gonna think a lot of it is that age
their age.
growth time too,
It could be.
because just thinking overall of
Right.
kids when they get to that,
It's who they are.
who am I and what am I? And
They're trying to figure a lot
out
out
things out.
with a lot of hormones running through their body at the same time.
Kind of what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely. The next slide is just the comparison for the last 2 years. So you can see the comparison just broken out to see how we're performing. Just so you know, all of our building principals got this slide deck weeks ago so that they knew we were presenting this. And I was very clear that like, it will not be an indicator of their efficacy, just like it's not an indicator of teacher efficacy. Okay, average daily membership. So I received counsel that I should not do these slides, but we're doing it. Average daily membership is not enrollment. It is how many students, it is not attendance rather.
Attendance, yeah.
It is how many students are enrolled that day. Okay? So it is not an attendance. It's not how many kids showed up to school that day. It's how many kids were enrolled. Good. Okay. So the next slide was, it's not on there, Anthony. It was on my slide deck. So I can't share it. So, okay. Oh, well. Sorry. Somebody created a graphic for me. That person is very disappointed right now. I'm sorry. It was a great graphic. All right. So our average daily membership, this is our average daily membership. So this is the trend in enrollment that we have at each school.
Yeah.
Not attendance. Okay. We're good with that. And then the next slide is just the comparison to last year of up or down students with our average daily membership. Okay, the next slide is about attendance. Now, this is super complicated too. So I'm giving you the information that's on the Future Ready Index, which is lagging data. So it's 22-23 data. So it's old. And see if you can figure this out. Attendance goes by students who are enrolled in the district 90 days or more and were present for 90% of that time. So these numbers are kids who were here 90 days plus, and then out of that time, we're in school 90% of the time. If our principals pull their attendance, it is much different than these numbers. So if our principals pull their daily attendance, these are not the numbers they're getting. Their numbers are much higher than what I'm going to show you. So here is, Anthony, sorry, here are the attendance numbers. So like when you look and you see 60s, that is because we live in a transient community. So any student who's less than 90 days is kind of not accounted for and almost hurting. So this is students 90 days plus 90% of the time. If our principals are pulling their daily attendance, they're in the high 80s, 90s every day. These are not daily attendance numbers, but the reason I'm showing you this and not those numbers is because this is what's public facing. This is what's on the Future Ready Index, and this is the formula that PDE and their infinite wisdom has decided to do. The bottom is the state average, just so you can see kind of where we are again in comparison to the state. So we all understand the difference between attendance and ADM.
So does that also include ESASD? So for example, if there's a South student that attends ESASD and they log in every day through ESASD, do they feed into the high school or like whatever?
Great question. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Okay, so I finished all of this and I almost felt sad that these numbers are not an indicator of who we are as a community. It's not the work you as the board put in, that our administrative team puts in, that our faculty and staff put in, and it is certainly not an indicator of the energy our students put in. So I said, okay, let me go looking for other data points. So as I was talking to people, people were talking about the lack of engagement in parent-teacher conferences. So I said, oh, great, we have them on March 3rd. So we put together a quick Google survey and sent it out to our teachers. And basically I said, how many kids do you have on your roster? How many parents showed up? So for our core classes, our main courses, 10.27% of our families came and attended conferences. Now it's really, really important because I know you're thinking, well, it's March, why would they come? Our high schools, it's a brand new semester. So for our high schools, the reason we have conferences in March is because of our high schools. And their conferences were almost like 2 or 3%. So then we said, okay, what about special ed and related services? So speech, MTSS, all of that. And it was less than 4%. And a lot of our special education teachers had IEP meetings. So they counted that. And then related arts electives was less than 3%. So then I was even sadder. So then I said, okay, now our parents aren't engaged. Our data doesn't really show that like we're like this high achieving, high performing district. So I said, all right, let me look at teacher efficacy. And I want to show this to you. And I spoke to the association about this ahead of time. This is not to say anything negative about our teachers. This is truly to tell you these scores mean a lot to our teachers. When I showed you those assessment scores, those building scores, our administrators, our teachers internalize that. They live by those numbers. They're upset by those numbers and they want change. So I said, okay, what data points can I show you to kind of say, okay, like it's not the teacher's fault. They are doing a wonderful job. We are giving them the equipment, the tools to teach. We are giving them the space to do it, and they're putting forth so much effort, so much dedication, but the output isn't what we want. And they agree that the output isn't what we want. So teacher efficacy, teachers are rated in 4 domains. Domain 1 is planning and preparation. Domain 2 is classroom environment. Domain 3 is instruction. Domain 4 is professional responsibilities. And they're rated every year. 0 is failing, 1 is needs improvement, 2 is proficient, and 3 is distinguished. So they get rated in every one of those domains. And then I can take all that data, which makes my heart happy, and I can look at where every teacher is rated. And if you look, every teacher, the average is over proficient. We do not have failing teachers in our district. We do not have struggling educators. So domain 1, all very, very positive. You look at domain 2 of classroom environment. So what kind of rapport do our teachers have with our students? That falls under that. Are they safe in the classroom? Do they feel comfortable to take risks? All of that is encompassed. Domain 3 is the actual instruction. What kind of questions are being asked? What kind of assessments are being done? Are our students engaged? Again, all above proficiency with their rating. And then domain 4 is professional responsibilities. So how engaged are the professional staff in our community at large or their school community? Well above proficiency. So do not allow these numbers to be conflated with our efficacy, our dedication, or the heart of the district. We work for and in an amazing district with amazing students, amazing faculty and staff, amazing people who want to do well. Just our outcome isn't where we need to be. So if you go to the next slide, this is the interesting fact. So out of an anticipated graduating class of 468 students, 206 of them have been with us for 13 years. That's 44% of them have had the opportunity to be influenced by us for 13 straight years.
Yes, not to interrupt. Is that? And so.
I believe that's north and south. That's
Yeah, combined.
Well, there has to be,
There should be more than
there
that.
should be more than that, because that's,
I can't look.
there's more.
Nice.
I know there's 234 kids
think it's
graduating
about
from
right.
NOR.
Close to is probably 360 K through 12.
No, no, no.
360.
Kindergarten to 12.
Let's just see. I was.
Let me double check that number. I can't get off the screen right now, but that is the number I was given in the spreadsheet. But it's still 44% of our students
Yeah.
60.
are with us for that 13 years.
All right.
Okay, so what's next? So right now, there's a lot more to do. So this paints a picture. This makes me want to dig further. So I want to collect and analyze more data. My biggest point right now is I want to create an alumni network, and I want to know how our students are actually doing once they
A
graduate.
what?
Alumni.
An alumni network.
Okay.
How are they actually doing when they graduate? So we see all these scores, but like, are they employed? So 2 years out, how are they doing? 5
know,
years out,
The,
how are they
the
doing?
interesting thing, ask here, how many of us came through here for 13 years?
3 of you.
I'm not from here.
Go up in the back.
4. Thank you. Way to go, Carl. Carl.
Oh, in defense, I have 4 kids and 1 grandchild on target for that, so.
And I got two.
Talk to us at the end,
Yeah.
okay?
4 kids.
So,
But look, when you see.
correct,
This is
I
it.
would see the lasting impact on the work we do. And an alumni network will help that.
Can I just throw,
That's
just
great.
something I experienced as a principal at South, and we had one algebra teacher who 75% of his algebra class changed within the semester. So I asked the teachers to do a little bit of an informal study. That was the winner, so to speak, that we had, that teacher had 75% different kids in a semester and was teaching them algebra 1. And getting kids, as you know, we get kids from a lot, which is a great thing. We get kids from a lot of different places, but then they're also bringing a lot of different experiences and background. So that is a major issue
Absolutely.
for us, I think.
And if they enter the school the day before the test, they
Anthony,
take
can you
the
go to the
test the
next
next
slide?
day.
Right.
Correct.
And get, and then go on our score, even though they
It
were
doesn't,
here
they
one
have to
day.
be there October 1.
Right.
They have to be there on October 1
Oh,
for
okay.
the
I
score
thought
to
they
count for
be
us.
tested immediately. I know.
They will have to test,
Okay.
but it doesn't get attributed to our district. I also want to look at college boards. So college boards shows you persistence rates in college, which is super important to me. So it tells you how many freshmen in our district go on to be sophomores, which is a really, really important stat for me, because if our students are not persisting, that means they're struggling. And now they've taken a year of debt that they should have never taken because they weren't ready for college. So I want to dig into that. I also want to dig into kind of an internal attendance and discipline data to better understand that. I think collectively as an organization, we need to determine our path forward. We can't fix all of it. If we try to fix all of it, we're going to fix none of it, I guarantee you. So we need to be very intentional with streamlining our area of focus. As I talk to our administrative team, I keep telling them this. that we see so much that needs help and support, but if we do it all, we do it none of it. So we need to be very, very intentional. I think as a group, we need to set our values and mission of what we're doing. So I know they sit on a wall. I really want to dig in and what is our goal? What do we want our students to leave here with? What is important to us? I think we need to continue to focus on our data of benchmarking students, making sure they're growing and improving. By doing that, we need to look at our core programs, our instructional practices, and our intervention processes. So we do a lot of MTSS work, which is interventions. But any educator will tell you, you cannot intervene out of a core problem. If our core curriculum is not meeting the needs, every intervention is great, but it's never going to fix the problem. We need to look at what's happening in the classroom. How can we make it better and bring it to the next level, and then interventions. And then I'm going to launch within the next few weeks a detailed climate survey. So I launched the soft one of like my entrance survey about kind of what people thought. This climate survey will really, really dig in. There will be questions about to our families, to our students, about are your teachers meeting your needs? Is our program meeting your needs? Are you getting extra help? Are you getting support? Very, very intentional questions to let us know how the services we provide are being received by the stakeholders. And also on the other side of that, to support staff and faculty, it will be about the supports that we're offering them. Do you feel supported by professional development? Do you have what you need to be successful? And if not, what is that? And then moving forward, what do you think we should work on? All of this will help us determine that path forward and make sure we are very intentional and strategic with what our goals are. Every administrator will have goals. I will have goals as well. That will be kind of public facing of what we're working on. And it will be very, very cohesive that we're all moving in the same direction and focused on very similar goals. And that is all you have for me tonight. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
That is not, no apology necessary.
Yeah, it was
That
great to
was-
see.
That was a.
It's refreshing to see it.
So the question is, how do we make lemonade from our lemon, right? I mean.
Right.
How do we make something out of it?
Correct. And I think this information sets our sense of urgency. So every leader will tell you, oh gosh, you need a sense of urgency. We have it now.
Right.
We know what it is. And now as a leadership team, we need to set what that expectation is and start moving toward good, positive change. But again, very intentional and hyper focused on one thing at a time.
May I ask a
May I?
question? Since you're a numbers kind of person and you like this, maybe could you look at maybe 10 years back, pre-pandemic? Because the pandemic really, no, it doesn't, not gonna affect anything, you don't think?
I did. So
Oh, okay.
I went pre
I think she had
2007.
7. You said you had
I
7
went
years.
back
Like,
to, I
But
actually.
most of these
I went
kids,
2017 back. And the numbers aren't much different.
okay,
I did.
because that was a major
They
for a lot of
have-
students.
I don't disagree with you.
Okay.
But the data doesn't fully support that.
Okay.
I wonder if it, like middle school age, are you able to disaggregate some of the data of boy versus girl, like the learning styles of males versus
You
females?
can do it by gender, race.
I'm single.
Yes,
Yes.
yes,
But-
you can pull it out
Yeah.
by almost any demographic category, you can dig down.
Right.
And we're gonna have some good conversations. We have just like you had a workshop, we have an admin workshop this summer where we're just gonna deep dive into data. And they are going to really understand, not that they don't now,
Right.
but we're going to have a common shared understanding of how to make decisions on what your goals are and what you're working toward that are based on measurable data points. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Dr. Vitale, would you like to go to the business or would you want to do committee report?
I don't know where he went.
He just gave, so he's on his way back.
Okay, so I guess
Do
let's
committee?
go do committee report.
Okay, we're gonna do our committee reports. We'll start with MCTI, Jason. Jason passes.
I mean, how do I follow a list of Carl Doc? I don't even have we met and we're gonna meet again next month.
The building's moving along.
On Monday, March 3rd, 2025, the MCTI JOC met to discuss following items. Finances, curriculum and instruction, student activities and personnel items, and of course, the progress of the conference center. The JOC started off with apparently Dr. Vitali, oh, excuse me. Yeah, that's correct.
It's the second meeting in a row.
Oh, geez. Yeah.
He's doing it on purpose.
Yeah.
So sad.
Because she read Miss Joseph's report, so. The JOC approved payment for invoices and investment information. We motion to approve the articulation agreement with the Northampton Community College for the following programs: hotel, restaurant, and event management for business hospitality, information security for computer information science, and networking and science administration for computer networking and security. The JOC also approved board policy 601 for purchasing bids and quotations. We also approved field trips in March to Read Across America at Arlington Elementary School in Stroudsburg, the sports medicine program at ESU in Stroudsburg, the Northampton Community Campus Automotive Department in Bethlehem, and Pocono Mountain School District Swiftwater Elementary presentation in Swiftwater, and finally Pocono Mountain Toby Hanna Elementary for the presentation in Toby Hanna. The JOC also approved the substitution appointment for Reese Jacobs as the CTE instructor. And we also approved the Occupational Advisory Committee for the 24-25 school year. And with heavy heart, we accepted the resignation for the purpose of retirement for Mr. Frank Zazzo. Mr. Zazzo's been the supervisor of the career and technical education, as well as our supervisor of buildings and ground. His resignation will become effective in September of the 25-26 school year. He'll be greatly missed within the MCTI community. And finally, the next MCTI meeting will be held on Monday, April 7th at 7 p.m. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jason. The Colonial IU20 report will be for me. At our meeting, the bulk of our meeting was spent listening to the financial audit from the Colonial IU. The condensed of a long presentation would be there were no issues found with their financial report. Everything is sound in the IU20, which we are a major contributor to. So good news to hear that report. They received many compliments and of the way they do things, and we could be confident in where our money is going for MCTI. If you want more detail, and in public too, if you go on their website, there's more detailed information about the audit. The other thing that was talked about at the meeting was their amazing Special Olympics program from the IU, which is simply amazing. We have an amazing program here too at Eastburg. They are into sports. They highlighted their winter athletes, and they do skiing, snowboarding. They had their athletes there. They had the people who coach them, and just the enthusiasm that you feel watching these students talk about and seeing their medals, and you can, if you ask, they'll show you the medals and tell you about them. So really an amazing job, and we can be very proud of what's happening at IU in Special Olympics. And remember, many of those in IU are our students, so they are experiencing that. And then the final thing they did, a little highlight of actually what our two students presented tonight with the education cohort. They too run an education cohort, much like we have here at our district. And what they did was something unique, is presenting, I know East Stroudsburg was there, Pocono Mountain. They are not only showing the teaching profession, which is very important to get our people to think about that, but these other occupations. I think, Carl, you mentioned them: occupational therapy, visually impaired, careers that students may absolutely have no idea about. And they did presentations on that, which are very good careers, especially for those who want to be in the helping type profession. So please know that our students are exposed to that. And again, it's simply amazing to see that. And I'm so excited that we are actually finally in education telling our kids that this is a viable opportunity to become involved in the education field. And please look into it. So that's my report. Property and facilities, Mr. Rillard.
Okay, property and facilities met on Wednesday, March 5th. The committee made motions to recommend. Hold tight here. Give me a sec. I'm really not used to this. Recommended LV floor covering for $53,180 for the JM Hill flooring project. The committee made a motion to recommend again on flooring replacement for JT Lambert, Hope Flooring for $545,410. And for Resica Elementary School, recommended LV floor covering for $159,355. The committee made a motion to recommend payment of CHA invoices. Which include South Field House for $738.30, North Campus Storm Pipe invoice for $548.26. The JTL partial flooring replacement invoice was $7,350. Resca for the flooring replacement for $5,500. JM Hill flooring replacement for $4,450. And East Stroudsbury Elementary sprinkler replacement project, an invoice for $14,000. I am hopeful that was for the construction plans that are supposed to be being drafted up as we speak. The committee made a motion to recommend option 3 for the North Bus Garage to complete the bus driver's lounge at the North Bus Garage. The committee's next meeting is Wednesday, April 2nd here, 5:30.
Okay, thank you, Wayne. Education programs and resources, Mrs. Petrillo.
We met on the 6th of March at 5:30. Mrs. Laurie presented first the Be Alliance update, highlighting the various holidays and celebrations for the month of March. This list, along with the support materials and articles, is emailed to all the staff so that they have it in advance. On February 20th, they had a workshop, Why Words and Language Matter. And the next topic is going to be on cultivating high expectations. After our second look at the proposed science curriculum and materials, we had many questions that came about. So those are being addressed currently, and we'll be bringing the science curriculum to the full board next month, hopefully. In addition, curriculum news, there are 82 courses that are on deck over the next few months that will be presented to the EPR committee, as well as course planning guides for our high school math and science courses. As we saw mentioned through the data dive today that Dr. Vitale presented, and as I always say at the end of all my reports, but I'm going to say it in the middle this time because of the 82 courses. This is, really EPR addresses all the curriculum and programming within our district. And I really highly recommend that, everyone attend those meetings or, Zoom in or listen even later on just to, get an idea of what's really happening and, the course that we're trying to make, because we have been, and I think that's part of what we see here in the results, our curriculum really hasn't been touched, in certain areas in many, many, many years. And so we're really trying to begin that process. And I just think it's important for, parents, community, and everyone to, be part of that and be aware of it. And, I want to thank the other members of the EPR committee, Rebecca, Jason, and Debbie, because it's a lot of work, we're getting all the curriculum and going through it and, and really taking a look at it because, this is what is the core and the heart of education. So I just wanted to kind of say that to everyone. We also had the special education plan presented by Mr. Brian Baddock and Dr. Mary Olszewski. Additional work on the plan is ongoing. So once the plan is completed, it will be posted on the district website for feedback. Additional feedback will be given by the steering committee. We'll have a few meetings yet for that. And then that plan will come to the EPR for final review on our April 10th meeting. So again, if anybody wants to be, wants to hear about that, to definitely be there. And then that will be presented to us as a full board on April 28th to vote to push it forward. The deadline is in May. Lastly, at our meeting, we did have a few shout outs. The first was for Dr. Ware, who was sponsored an engaging luncheon for current and aspiring NHS students up at High School North. Our second shout out, just to kind of go along with our Science Day, was to Paul Kernan and his gifted students and all the South science teachers for planning and executing a successful and fun Science Day. As was already mentioned, last year it was first time it was done, it was hosting all of the fifth graders from South, and this year it encompassed all of the fifth grade, both North and South. So I really wanted to, again, just give that shout out to all of the science teachers, all the students. Fifth grade students were, so great and really had a fun time. And really, it's, again, just highlights the interconnectedness of our district. You hear so many things, we have the reports, and you just see really how our students, faculty and staff really work together, even as writing the curriculum as just as an example, North and South, all the different elementary schools, really working together. So I just, we have a great district, and it's a wonderful thing to witness, and whether it's our mad scientists, fifth grade, or, whether it's all of our teachers and students working together. So again, our next meeting is Thursday, April 10th, 5:30 here or on Zoom. So I welcome and encourage everyone to attend. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Finance Committee?
We met on Monday, March 10th, and we had a full meeting, and you're gonna have Mr. Bard's presentation after this. And so we are moving forward the purchase of Apple computers for our elementary schools and teachers. And we do this every couple of years with the contract. We have the purchase of HP computers for our staff also at the elementary schools and in the offices. And the purchase of our Lenovo Chromebooks for grades K, 5, and 9. They're on the replacement cycle. And we're also on the agenda is the approval of the 2025 senior rebate resolution, which is in line with the Commonwealth guidelines. And also we are replacing a crew cab dump truck, and we're getting $8,000 trade-in for the old dump truck. And we took the lowest of the 3 quotes, which is from Bonner Chevrolet. You'll see that on the agenda. We also spoke through what Wayne went through with Properties and Facilities, his recommendations. And that is it. And our next meeting will be Monday, April 14th at 5:30, both via Zoom and in person.
Okay, thank you, Rebecca. Keith has the report for policy, and he also has another announcement.
Another exciting evening with policy. We talked a great deal about a lot of different policies, and on the agenda tonight, we have our recommendations that we asked for last week that were up for public review. But tonight we discussed, and we're asking to be posted for further public review and then be discussed at next month's meeting. We would discuss these policies. Policy 103, discrimination, harassment affecting students. Policy 103.1, non-discrimination, qualified students with disabilities. Policy 104, discrimination, harassment affecting staff. Policy 234, pregnant, parenting, married students. Policy 247, hazing. Policy 249, bullying. Policy 317.1, educator misconduct. Policy 336, personal necessity leave. Policy 339, uncompensated leave. Policy 807, opening exercises, moment of silence, flag displays. And policy 708, lending of equipment and books. As well as policy. No, that's it. Our next meeting will be April 28th here at 4:30 PM, as well as online. And that's my policy report. Okay, okay, I know you are.
Not on yours.
You have a question, Rich? Oh, okay. And then, on March 11th, George, and I had the honor of attending, we were asked to attend, the ESYA. They had a fundraiser, Parents versus Coaches. It was a basketball game. It was at JTL. And we were asked to just show up, and we got there, and they presented our school district with an award that says, with sincere gratitude and appreciation for your dedication and support of ESYA basketball 2025. They gave us a plaque. So I'm going to pass it on to the school to hang and display. It was a really neat game. The coaches won the game. So, and it was pretty interesting. It's a really neat program, and I'm glad we're able to support it. And also I wanted to give a shout out to the Science Day. I was able to attend the Science Day at the high school because I loaned some equipment to them, and it was really, really neat to see all of our, it was a great thing to see all of our schools coming together, even, north and south. It was awesome. So I know that wasn't what I was told I was going to say, Mr. Control, but I have to give a shout out. Like I said, our next meeting, April 28th, right here. Be here and for more excitement.
Okay, and a quick repeating of encourage the public, people either live at home or here, or you can watch them whenever you want. You can later on, just can't comment, obviously, later on. The bulk of our detailed work of all these things goes on in committees. So if you really want to hear the nitty-gritty discussion, those are the places really where you're going to hear, and also can comment at those meetings. So if there's a particular area that either you have an expertise in, or you feel, for all the public, they have an interest in, you are welcome at these, or at least watch them on Zoom, or watch them later. Carl, I'll pass that on to students too, especially in the area of curriculum. Those are the curriculum decisions, especially for our younger students, freshmen, may want to watch that and see what's being talked about for future programs. So that's really the detailed bulk work does in our committees. And those are really the places to decisions are made. Okay, and speaking of decisions, we have Peter will present some updates on the budget.
Oh, boy.
That's when everybody leaves.
Everybody's leaving, Peter. You scared them away.
Way to clear the room.
That's not unusual. So thank you, everybody, for coming. I'm gonna stand at the podium as my thing now. I'm not moving it in the middle so I can see the taxpayer, so I don't get accused of missing the taxpayer. So there's no time either. So this is the 25-26 budget. For those, I presented this same exact presentation at the finance committee, so I'm sharing it with the board as a whole. Hang on a second. I don't know why this isn't start here. Okay, so the first slide I want to talk about is the district enrollment. This Dr. Vitale talked about this a little bit. This is different than ADMs. This is the enrollment that is present in the school district for the last 10 years. This goes back to 2015, and it shows a distinct trend in the district over the last 10 years, and it shows a declining enrollment from close to 7,000 students down to about 6,433, which is in the present day now. And this is just a snapshot in this school year as to where the enrollment is. And this will be important as we go through the budget, because this will show a per pupil spend, as I will get to in the future. So we'll talk about our per pupil general fund expenditures for the last 4 years, and the budgeted per pupil expenditure for the current fiscal year. So if you look at it, you'll see that we were spending $23,744 per pupil. Then it goes up to 27,000, down to 26, and it hovers around 26 to 27,000, goes up to 28,310 last year. And this current year budgeted expenditure is at 31,687. And that is on the current budgeted expenditures based on our district enrollment. And this is important because this is showing exactly where our dollars are going to per each individual student that we are educating in the district. So this is a current number to show you. So you might be thinking to yourself, well, how does this compare to the rest of the schools, not only in our region, but also in the state? So this is a pretty interesting chart to show you as well, because this goes all the way back to 2013. The blue line on this chart is our district. The orange line is the Colonial IU, and the green line is the state. So it shows us much above not only the state average, but also the Colonial IU average, which is the regional districts. And this is and so it all stops at 2023 because the 2024 data wasn't available to Frontline at the time of this publication. So this data comes from the actual money calculated on the app. This goes by average daily membership, and the regular data is not available. So let's talk about the 2025-2026 revenue summary. So the 2025-2026 revenue for the local is 107 million. The state is 76 million. The federal dollars are 4.9 million. The other is 50,000, which is sale from fixed assets, bringing the total revenue at 189,309,441, or an increase of 1.55% from the previous year. This assumes a 0% tax increase. This assumes the continued loss of assessment values. And this assumes the governor's budget stays exactly as it is proposed, and that there's no additions or subtractions as proposed. So I want to talk a couple of things about this budget, about the local revenue. I've rounded up. I've continued to look and study the local pieces of this revenue. So some things that go into the local revenue. The biggest piece of this, or $88 million or so of this, is their local real estate collection. The other big piece of this local pie is the local earned income tax. Previously, in the previous budget, I had 4.3 million. I've rounded it up to 4.7 million. I anticipate that I should be able to increase this even a little bit more to $5 million, as the trend has been that we are anticipating a $5 million collection rate instead of 4.3 million. 4.3 million has been entirely overly conservative. We've gotten some estimates in that we've been collecting around 5.3 million over the last several years. We should be able to increase that. That has been some of the reasons why. So let me back up a little bit here. As you guys know, in the past, you guys have seen budget deficits that are budgeted in the $7-8 million range, and you come in at the even or slightly deficit, a slight deficit. For example, the 23-24 year comes to mind. Some of the reasons, and one of the reasons that happened last year was, for an example, we budgeted $179 million in revenue, and we came in at around $182 million in revenue. So that helped offset some of the deficit. Some of that was because we were overly conservative on the revenue side of the puzzle. So what I'm doing in this year's budget is to help trim, and not just trim, but also look at ways that we can be and right size the shift. So you're going to hear me say right size a lot in this budget. We're going to right size the revenue piece to be more aligned with the variances that we have seen historically in the budget. So for an example, the investment on earnings have been around like $1.2 million budgeted, but we came in somewhere around 2.5 million. Now that's a very big variance that we should not have. We should be closer to a 2 or 3% variance on the investments. So I'm going to make that number a little bit higher, and I have in this budget to reflect what the current market values are. Now, the feds are continuing to adjust how many times they're going to cut their budget, or they're going to cut interest rates. So I'm going to be a little more conservative. So I'm not going to go right to 2.5 million, but I'm going to raise that number from 1.2 million to a better, more realistic number, so we don't have that variant. Now, the downside to all that is you're not going to see that swing where you're going to have that $10 million swing on the deficit in the 25-26 budget. When we talk about what we are anticipating in the later slides we'll get to, is you're going to see that we're going to have that variant again come through in the 24-25 budget, which will benefit us as we're planning and future planning, but we may not have that in the 25-26 year. So the board has to be cognizant when that comes in, that it's not because our team isn't doing a great job or the board is spending the budget the way it has been appropriated. The fact is that we eliminated the variances to make it a clearer picture. And these are historical variances that existed for many years. And you guys have talked about it, and we've all talked about it for years as to why this has gone on. So the state budget has included we've gotten a little more money also in the state budget from our transportation subsidy. Our transportation subsidy has gone from 2.5 million to 3.1 million.
So we're going to account for that in our pieces. That's come from better reporting, and also the state has increased our allotment due to the inflationary index. So we've included that in this budget as well. So before I go on into the next slides, do you guys have any questions? Any board members have any questions about this before I go into the
Can you
next slide?
address what you talked about by the real estate market changing and the commercial, or is it
So, yeah, sure.
residential? Can you please address
Sure,
that?
yeah, so our highest taxpayer appealed their real estate, and we lost $43 million in assessed value, which is actually a $1.3 million in tax revenue that we have to take off of this piece. So we're trying, so in the interim, to try to make up for that without accounting for necessarily a tax increase, which we'll get to in the very end of the deck. I want to try to not make up for, but realize that we were being overly conservative in the other areas of the revenue to try to paint a more realistic picture for the public and for the board as to where the other local pieces of the revenue come in, so that if the board does make a decision later on into what the administration or what I make a recommendation the board does, you don't come back in June of 2026 and we have another wild swing where the deficit isn't as big, and then everybody's looking to, yell at Pete for saying, hey, you said it was going to be a big deficit, but now we had a wild swing where there wasn't a big deficit. I want to make that realistic picture so that we have addressed we want to turn over every single rock so that there's not anything that we weren't talking about before asking the board to increase revenue by the last really lever they have, and that's the real estate revenue. But our largest taxpayer did assess or appeal their assessment. We lost, and we came to an agreement on their assessment. So we have lost a significant amount of money. That's why East Stroudsburg Area School District was the largest recipient of the tax equity payment that they got in the state, which was the $5.5 million tax equity payment that we received, was because the state recognized that East Stroudsburg and all the districts in Monroe County, I think all 4 of them were in the top 6 of all the tax equity payments that came out, because all of Monroe County is going through the same thing.
And then the per pupil spend, that's not just salaries, that's everything, buildings, buses.
Everything, including debt service.
Special education, everything.
Every special education, debt service payment, it's everything divided by the
Number of enrollments.
number of enrollment, correct.
So it's not just salaries, it's.
No, it's not just.
Buildings, it's everything.
It's everything. It's maintenance of the buildings, it's maintenance of your physical plants, it's transportation costs, even if your student doesn't get it, take a bus, they drive, it's everything that's included in there.
I just want to make sure that was clear as well.
Yep. So let's look at the 25-26 budget summary. The revenue is pre-mentioned at 189,309, 441. The expenditure at 213, just shy of 214. The projected deficit at 24,578,660. Like Dr. Vitale has previously mentioned, please don't. This is the worst case scenario. So please don't, don't have heart attacks, or this stuff keeps me up at night. Don't let yourself keep yourself up at night. This is the worst case scenario. We're going to trim it down and begin the trimming down process right away. The general fund balance that we have is 50,400,000 even. And that was the audit amount from the 23-24 audit. The anticipated amount is what we just talked about a few minutes ago. What I talked about was where we're anticipating we're going to land in the 24-25 budget. We're going to land somewhere between 6 and 8 million. I landed at the $7 million mark because that's right in the middle. So we're going to anticipate that with the funds to balance the 25-26 budget. I anticipate ending the 2026 fiscal year with the fund balance of 18,821,340. We also have a capital reserve fund balance of 15,204,191. The difference between the general fund balance and the capital reserve is the capital reserve can only be used for capital projects that have a lifespan longer than 5 years or more. So there is money we have over 32 million, as you can see in the fund balance, which is still healthy for a district this size, but there are the warning flags, the warning signs are there, and the district needs to be concerned, and the board needs to be concerned that if the trend continues, and I will show you that in the future, what will happen if we don't stop if the deficits continue to be realized. So some of the deficit did increase slightly from the last presentation we had. The reason it did increase slightly was because we went through all 10,000 lines of the budget and reclassified some of the accounting lines. We also discovered that one thing wasn't imported into the budget properly, and it was $173,000 expense for a curriculum purchase in special ed. So we had to add that. It was an error. So we had to put that into the budget to make sure it was properly accounted for. We are now 100% confident that we have not missed anything. So now the task that we have begun, and we're beginning this week and next, is to find, and we'll go through the different data we're going to present with you guys present you guys with, is a 5 to 10% reduction over some of the building and some of the budgets that we can cut some of the supplies with and some of the other things with. When I say 5 to 10%, it doesn't mean 5 to 10% on 213 million, because some of the stuff is static, we can't cut. It's 5 to 10% of some of the discretionary spend that we can cut, so that will reduce some of this budgetary spend, and also continue to look and analyze our revenue side to see if we can find some other revenue sources that would not affect the peoples and programs. So let's go through some of the expenditure details. Now, the salaries rest at 88 million, which is a 2.5% increase from the year before. The benefits are at 64 million, which is an increase of 7.7%. The health insurance costs make up the primary driver of this, so 11% projected increase. The professional and technical services are 11 million, or 11.5, also 11.5 million, or a 19% increase. This is where we house the IU services for special education. That is what's driving primarily this number. The purchase property services is 2.6 million, or a 17% increase. Some of the services that are in there are the garbage removal, snow removal, different things of that nature, things that we have to subcontract out to bring in. The other purchases services, some of the big things in here on the 15 that drive the $15.4 million cost, which is a 4.7% increase, is the charter school tuition, which is a $9 million impact. The liability insurance for the district, which is about a $1.2 million cost, and also the ODP stands for out of district placements. So any students that have to be placed out of the district for whatever reason, they are accounted for in there. When I say out of district placement, that's the tuition that we pay for out of the districts.
Could you clarify how for us or for the public, how the charter school tuition is done? And like what we pay and like difference from other districts?
Yeah, so the districts, we calculate our charter school tuition via PDE 363. The data is housed on the PD's website under charter school. You could find all the districts of all the districts' data from all 500 some districts on there. Ours was recalculated in November to match the current legislation. I believe our regular ed's around 28,000, and our special ed's around 52,000 per student. So it's based on our budgetary costs minus they take out some of our federal expenditures and things of that nature. And they also take out debt service as well to figure out that number. And that number is a calculation form. It is different. Every school district is completely different. So East Stroudsburg area is different than Stroudsburg, which is different than Pleasant Valley, which is different than Pocono Mountain. So every school district is completely different. There is no set standard or reform. That's why we need charter school reform to take place. If you guys talk to any of your legislators that represent you, we should be speaking in one voice that we need to reform the charter school reform so that everything is uniform based on one single rate that would benefit us. The problem is with that, and what you're going to hear is what may benefit our representative and our senator here may not benefit somebody in Western Pennsylvania or a smaller district, because the flat rate might not benefit that particular district depending upon where they land. So that are some of the challenges that exist with that, but our particular district, it would benefit. Some of these where I know Dr. Vitale and Andy have a very aggressive plan to get some of these students back. And so this is a key to drive our costs down. And so it will be a struggle, but it will be something that we can undertake, and something that we have to undertake for the cost expenditure.
Yeah, I just don't think the public realizes how much.
No, anytime a student, so one thing you should get out to the public is when a student resides in East Stroudsburg, if they were to leave the district and go to Commonwealth Charter Academy, where it says a big billboard, it says tuition free school, it's not tuition free. The taxpayers of this district pay for it. If they were, so That is something that I think a lot of people really realize. And so that's why we need charter school. We also need charter school reform, because I think a lot of times these students go there, and then sometimes the charter school finds ways to make them a special ed student. Like they need if the student gets diagnosed with a speech, goes up to a $51,000 charge for our district. And there are really no ways that we can track not only their success in that school, but also whether or not they're being successful, especially as a special ed kids. Like those kids are the most at need for services, and the most needful where we want to get them to be the most successful. And we don't have a check to make sure that these students are getting the services that they need, and they're the most vulnerable. So I think that's where the struggle is that we need, that I think the struggle is with the charter schools.
And all that data that we just looked at doesn't exist for cyber charter schools because they don't have to.
That's right.
So they are not held to the same standard that we are held to of accountability with future ready index assessments, all of that. So there is no metric to measure whether they are supporting students and students are learning or growing. Sorry.
That's no problem. So we'll go on to the supplies, which is a $9.8 million line item, which is a 7.29% increase. This includes electricity, natural gas, water, and school supplies. Please, we're not spending $9 million on papers and pens or things of that nature. It's a much smaller number than that. Most of this is our yeah, most of us is our utilities to keep our buildings warm in the summer, cool. Wait,
Cool in summer.
yeah, reverse that. Cool in the summer, warm in the winter. Sorry. So when it came out, it was too late. You can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. But that's where our costs are coming from. The property 3.125 million or 24.98% increase. The reason this is an increase and the debt service is a decrease is because in the original proposal and the original budget, I had money allocated in the debt service because I thought we were going for leases and we're going for purchases. So, for the computers. So the computers are booked differently because of GASB requirements. And they are, and which I'm not going to explain the GASB definitions because I know you're going to get me because you lean back in your chair and you have that smile on your face. So I'm not going to get on the GASB definitions, but the GASB requirements require leases to be booked as debt service and not as a property purchase. So I had to reverse them as we went to that and to buy the computer replacement. So that is why you see those differences in the budget. That's why there was differences from this presentation to the next. So this is some different. So before we took the feedback that the board was been giving, and Dr. Vitale and I decided to give you guys the department and the building level budgets and also go from the 24-25 to the 25-26 differentials. So these are some of the things that we're talking about, the cutting back the 5 to 10% reductions on, if possible. Some of these are not going to be able to be reduced because they are grant related. And I also want to point out a couple of things. When I get to them, I'm going to go a couple of things I want to point out. First off, the library, when it goes from 181,704.37 and the difference is 181,704.37. There was an error in importing the library budget into the budget system last year, and it wasn't noticed until the librarians began to order their materials. And we noticed that there was an error coming up saying that the budget was overextended for library already. And it was July 1. So that was not, that's when we noticed the mistake in the error in the export. So the budget was missed. So unfortunately, that's why it looks like that. I decided just to let it roll instead of coming to edit the budget when it was already passed and uploaded. So we left it in there like that. So that's why it's looking like that. The library did not have $181,000 increase. So that's not there. We will be looking at scaling back and cutting some of the things that can be cut in some of these departments. I've already sent out the emails to look at some of these different things. And some of these budgets are higher because they're already making purchases or doing projects that are not being paid out of the capital fund. They're being paid. And when I say capital fund, I mean capital reserve. And they're not being paid, they're being paid out of the general fund. So I want to go through this. This is also the charter schools, the budgetary reserve. The Colonial Intermediate Unit is the special ed, a lot of special ed service that come out of there. This also includes the Colonial IU budget that was proposed to us before their general operating budget, which is just covers their administrative team and doesn't cover that. The computer leases, this will be the last year for the computer leases moving forward. The debt service increase, the 1.275 million is the school bus purchases that we approved. The insurance premiums are the 10% increase that we're expecting for the insurance premiums. I do want to touch on the grant piece at the bottom. At the finance committee meeting, I misspoke a little bit saying that we decreased in grant bringing in. We actually did not necessarily decrease in the grants. The grants expenditures that you're looking at there are actually our grant expenditures for Title I through IV money that are not tied to salary and benefits. So a lot of our Title I money is tied through salary and benefits. Our grant writer, Angela Byrne, has actually brought in close to $900,000 to $1 million in competitive grants this year that are paying for a lot of projects. You're actually going to be voting on and approving them, one of them tonight at least. So there is a lot of work that she does to bring that money in, and that's not the $18,000 decrease is not because of because we're not bringing in as much grant money. I mentioned I mentioned at the finance committee meeting that we're having a decrease in grants. The title money did decrease by $36,000, but it has nothing to do with grant writing. It has to do with the title money being decreased, and this is proportionate to the grants being declined. She also wrote an EITC grant, which is a competitive grant to help make up for some of the costs that we lost through the title programs. So there's some, for an example, the steamer program that we run in the summer. The EITC grant pays for some of the school supplies that we lost out of the steamer program because of the decrease in the title money that goes to pay for some of that. She has actually wrote a competitive grant to help pay for some of the supplies that we lost out of that grant. So she does a phenomenal job. And I just wanted to draw your attention to that, because I know at the finance committee, I said that we lost some grants, but we didn't. We just had a slight decrease in the title money that we're getting. It has nothing to do with Angela or anything of that nature.
Address the board budget there.
So the board budget has the 97,500 where the primary drivers of that particular line item is where we house the district audit. So the audit costs about $30,000. So that's about a third of the board's budget currently. The PSBA membership for the board, where we get all their policy recommendations, and also where they do give us legal advice, is also $18,000 as well. So that's almost half of your board budget already. So that's where all the current that's what drives the budget. So the board isn't spending, so the public knows the board isn't spending $97,550 on themselves. There's nothing like that going on there. So please, so members of the public, please don't think that that's where the board is spending. So the $31,000 increase is because our audit went up a little bit and the PSBA raised their I think that went up like $1,000 or so, but that's not the reason why that increased as well. We're also going to be looking at that at the board budget as well to ensure that all that increase is taken care of as well. There also was some printing and binding supplies and stuff like that goes in there, but it's not like that. So the next slide is the bill.
Can I ask you a question, please?
Yes.
The Colonial Intermediate Unit is showing a $9 million for an increase of 1.6. But when the Colonial IU people were here with their budget, it wasn't that much. Where's the rest of that money coming from?
So that was only like a $36,000
Right.
charge. That $36,000 charge is only
Their
for
general operating.
their general operating budget, which is basically their admin team. This 9.275 million is actual purchases, services that we buy from them for our special education students
So we are actually purchasing services for our district.
from the IU.
Yes.
We have students that go there.
Yes.
They come here.
Or they come here.
That much, okay.
Yeah, so we buy mental health workers or mental health services and things of that nature.
We don't buy them.
I mean, no, we buy them. Yeah, so we buy the services and they provide the services to our students.
Is it not roughly 25% of our student population somehow receives services?
It's about that, correct?
Yes.
About that, yeah.
So the next slide is the 25-26 expenditure details, this is by building. I want to draw your attention to MCTI. The MCTI line, this is one of the reasons why I left this in on purpose. I know, because I knew it was an error, but I wanted to leave it in on purpose because I wanted to show you some of the encounters that we had going through the 10,000 line items. The number is going to be lower, so you're going to see a lower budget presentation next month, because that number wasn't the number that the MCTI budget is, because you're going to vote on it tonight. And the reason it wasn't in there is because we talked a little bit about why the deficit comes in lower than you expect. Well, in this budget line item, you saw there's a $25,000 buffer in there between $25,000 for North and the $25,000 for South. But for the life of anybody in my office, no one could know why, because the MCTI doesn't bill like that. They bill on a yearly basis. So there's no need to have a buffer in there at all for that particular space. So we're going to take it out. We're just going to build exactly what MCTI is going to charge. And so that will be the exact charge that MCTI has given us for the 25-26 school year. So that number will come down. The rest of the buildings we're meeting with, and including the athletics department in both schools, in both high schools, to go over their budgets and see where they can tighten their belts, sharpen their pencils, and eliminate 5 to 10% from their budgets and move from there. So some of these numbers should come down somewhat and work from there as well. So we're looking to eliminate some costs from here, that we can eliminate some things that they need. Like we've said in the past, we're looking for having a Christmas with socks and underwear, not with shiny toys or Cadillacs or anything like that. And we're trying to do that. And this is going to be one of those things that we go through every single year moving forward as we continue to flesh out the budget process. So before I move on to the forecast, the budgetary forecast for the next 4 or 5 years, does anybody have any questions about those slides?
No,
Okay.
very clear. Thank you.
So I want to look, these slides are a little more difficult to see because of the contrast, but I wanted to show you guys the projected forecast that was done with our frontline analytics system for the next year. This is assuming, so a couple of the things on this slide is assuming a 0% tax increase for the 26 year. And in 27, 28, and 29, it's assuming a 3.5% tax increase. So that's the first thing you guys need to write down, is that's what this model is assuming. So it shows, if you look at the graphical analysis here, it shows the widening gap between the orange and the light blue, which is a widening deficit between 29, 28, 27, even with a nominal tax increase. So that just goes to show you the widening deficit. So now on the next slide, it will show the projected fund balance. Remember, this is the worst case scenario. This does not include the anticipated fund balance. This is the projected fund balance. So that has to be taken into account when you're looking at this number as well. So the projected fund balance in 26 is a little over $0. The projected fund balance in 27 is close to negative $20 million. The projected fund balance in 28 is close to negative $60 million, and the projected fund balance in 29 is close to negative $80 million. Now, that is assuming the tax increases in those years that I mentioned at the beginning, and that's not assuming the absolute worst case scenarios, that deficits are realized in the full to every single year. So I put this in words so that you guys can see instead of looking, because I know it's kind of hard to see. By the fiscal year 2027, the district is expected to trend towards a fund balance of negative 18 million, and the net loss for the year, which would be the deficit, is negative 26.5 or 0.4 million. And by the fiscal year 2029, the district's fund balance is projected to trend towards negative 81 million, with a projected net loss for the fiscal year 2029 at negative 33.3 million. And that is assuming a 3.5% tax increase in both of those years. Now, remember, That is the absolute worst case scenario. So that doesn't mean the projected fund balance. That doesn't, remember, we're projecting a fund balance to be adding additional $10 million. It doesn't include that, but you could add the $10 million onto that. That doesn't avoid these numbers a little bit. And it also includes that we didn't make that the state keeps flat funding in place, and there is no charter school reform, and there's no other things that could happen or take place. It also assumes nothing more worse happens when we lose other sources of revenue either. So I think it's important to note that we are at a crossroads in our district. And so we need to begin to look at it and right size our district in a way that makes sense, in a way that is fair to our students. I mean, you look at our student reports, and Maggie made a statement to me earlier today about why we're here and why we do things. And I do a lot of self-reflection, and I really reflected on that, and she's absolutely right. And I look at these numbers all day, but there's actually students behind these numbers. There's nothing more important than making sure our students are educated with the best possible professionals. And I'm just really probably the least important person in the district, because all I do is counting beans all day. And in reality, we need to make sure that the district is solvent and the district is moving forward in a positive, clear and concise direction. And the most important thing we do is that we don't miss these crossroads that we take each year, because we will meet crossroads every single year. And this is an important crossroad this year. So I just want to show you these financial outlooks, because next month, I'm going to show you forecast models based on the feedback that I gather. You guys can send me feedback via email, phone calls, pigeon mail, rocks through the window, however you want to get there.
rocks through the windows.
Sorry, Peter.
No, that's
Through my car windows, not through the district windows, because I have to pay more money. And we're going to offer models based on possible tax increase to the base revenue. And we're going to make the models based on realistic forecast trends. We also have some ideas on how we could lower and decrease expenditures without hurting the community, and without hurting the students or people's or programs. So we're going to do that. We're going to do it in a very painless process. Then we're going to ask the Finance Committee in May to make recommendation of which budget choice to move forward, and present the preliminary final budget for the board for consideration and passage. And in June, we'll ask the board to make the final budget vote and passage. And throughout these processes, even in May and June, we'll continue to look for ways to trim the expenditure, and just remember that every decision we make is a crossroad, and every crossroad we make has ramifications. And all I want to do is give you guys the best information that I could provide, and move the district forward in a positive way that maybe hasn't been done in quite a while. So if you guys have any questions, please reach out to my extension below or my email, and I'll be sure to get back to you. With that, is there any questions I could answer right now?
No, I just want to I say this every year for many years, and I'm going to continue to say this. This budget is based on a state budget that we will not see or recognize till well after we've already determined what we are going to be able to spend. So it's our state government does not tell us how much they're going to give us until after we tell them how much we want, which is wrong. How can you budget or forecast when you don't know what you're supposed to be getting from the state, where they're going to go with it? Second of all, is what's alarming, and it's not alarming, because the flow chart that showed our spending versus the average state spending, it doesn't take into consideration the unfair formula that has been enacted for many years, where Western PA schools don't get we get a lot more per student in smaller districts. If you look at with no square miles, with no 11, 12, we have 11 buildings, if you want to get technical, it's 10 plus the cyber, and we have hundreds of miles. And I'm going to say this till I'm blue in the face, and the public needs to just address this with the state legislatures, that we need to it's that extra money we got this year from the state was not because they were being generous. They were trying to make up for lost money, and we need to make up some more lost money.
And the fact that we paid $9 million a year to charter schools.
And the charter school, right, and that's the thing, and they don't follow the same standards we are held accountable for.
Charter schools with no accountability.
Correct.
So, and I just want to say the district, when the district got their budget allocation, it was in August and September, and they set the rules for spending that money, and $5.5 million that we just received from that allocation, we can't use until 25, 26.
Right.
So it is one of those things that we can't control.
Thank you, Mr. Barb. I
Thank you.
appreciate all of your energy.
Thank you.
It's very clear. Thank you. I appreciate the clarity on it. Motion to adjourn now.
Motion to approve.
Whoops, I skipped that page. Okay, next, public participation limited to comments on this agenda by residents and taxpayers of the school district, 3 minutes each. Anyone who's present? have anything? Okay, Anthony, do we have anyone online?
They're all napping.
I don't blame them. Thank you. Okay, well, seeing none, then we'll move on. Any unfinished business? Okay. Everyone's afraid to bring anything. Okay, motion to adopt the board policies as listed.
So moved.
Second.
Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion to approve Matthew Kraus as the treasurer for the completion of Diane Kelly's term ending on June 30th, 2025, from the recommendation from the Finance Committee.
So moved.
Second.
Questions?
That's just so we can also get him as a signer on the checks and all of that and all that stuff too, correct? Mostly.
Correct. That's to, Diane Kelly is retiring, so we want to change all the checks over and add Dr. Vitale and and now Andy as well. So we wanted to get it all done in one fell swoop.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Yep.
If it's all right with the mover and seconder, I'd just like to add a sentence that the district will pay for Mr. Krause's bond required by statute.
Okay,
I was gonna ask that.
okay. Okay, hearing all that, all in favor? Opposed? Okay. Motion to approve the MCTI operating budget for the 25-26 school year in the amount of $10,616,412 with the East Stroudsburg Area School District share being $2,353,493.34 as previously distributed and presented to the board.
Aye.
Any questions about the 34 cents? Let's all chip that in so we can make it an even. No, any question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion to authorize the field trips that are listed.
So moved.
Questions?
Yes, under the DECA one, I'm assuming that should be national competition, not state, because it's in Florida.
Yes.
Yes.
It is.
I apologize.
Okay.
All good.
Any other questions on the field trips? Okay, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? A motion to approve the recommendations to modify expulsion requirement agreement based upon expulsion, waiver of school board hearing and release agreements for the case listed in substantially the same form as presented at this meeting, contingent upon the receipt of any manifestation determination indicating that infractions were not manifestations of a disability where it applies, subject to final review by the school district's administration and legal counsel.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion to approve the amendment to the agreement with Mr. Andrew Snyder as presented. The sole amendment is changing the commencement date from April 28th, 2025 to March 17th, 2025.
So moved.
Second.
Please.
Any questions?
Better hope that we vote right there.
Maybe we should talk about.
Well, I think we should talk about it. Let's table this one. Until next week. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Welcome early.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Nice to have you.
Nice to have you. Motion to approve the employment actions listed in accordance with the associated applicable policies, procedure, and contractual agreements, subject to proper completion and receipt of all necessary documents and clearances.
So moved.
Second.
Questions? Just a comment. I just want to congratulate all the retirees. And also, just on a personal note, Lois Groff is retiring, and I had the pleasure of working with her as a teacher, working as her principal, and it's a great loss. I'm happy for her to enter the next part of her life, but she was the type of teacher, you went in her class, you never wanted to leave. The kids loved her. She reached out to kids. She's had such a positive impact. It's a big loss for our district, but I certainly wish her well. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion to grant exoneration of 2024 property taxes levied by the school district on tax parcel number 09.98193 and any penalties, fees, and interest accrued thereon pursuant to the Disabled Veterans Real Estate Tax Exemption Program.
Second,
Questions?
I have a question. Well, is it, we're just approving this year? Are we then, is this,
It's good for
Jump.
5 years.
So
we good for 5 years?
what you're approving is by this program, when you are a 100% disabled combat veteran, you have to
Every 5
apply to the state and you get 5 years off.
Right.
This particular individual wasn't aware that he needed to do every 5
Right.
years, so he was a couple months late, which means he got 1 year tax bill because he was a couple.
So we're
months
just-
late. You're saying we can.
But
make
he
that
was accepted for the
retroactive.
next 5 years and we're not, okay, we're not sure yet.
No, what you are saying is state, we are not gonna charge him for that year, even though he was a couple months
Okay.
late.
But
It's
now he has
not-
renewed.
it's not 5 years off, 1 year on, 5 years
No.
off.
He's just
It's
gonna be
5
on
years
his
off,
own.
5 years off.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion to approve the 2025 senior rebate resolution following along the Commonwealth's guidelines in accordance with the recommendation from the Finance Committee.
Second.
Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion to award items A through G in accordance with the recommendations from the Finance Committee and the Property and Facilities Committee, and those items are listed there.
Second.
Questions? All in favor? Opposed? Motion to approve item A in accordance with the recommendations from the Finance Committee and the Property and Facilities Committee, and you see that listed.
So moved.
Second.
Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion to approve number 044458 V5 with Integra One in the amount of $159,982.39. Pricing is per the NCPA contract 01169.
Second.
Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion to approve the payment of bills and unaudited treasurer's report listed in this agenda for the 24-25 fiscal year in accordance with section 687 of the Public School Code, recent directives from the Department of Education, and interpretations made by the Auditor General.
So moved.
Second.
Question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion to approve the payment. Oh,
Wait,
Yes.
let us.
Now, are you sure?
Okay.
You're late, we're moving on. We're moving on.
No, it's not.
Wait a minute.
I think there's no back there. Here we go.
If it's this one, then no.
Wait, I thought I got you. And I was like, the line is incorrect. It's listed incorrectly. And so, this is
Okay.
number one, right, yeah.
Oh.
Shall I continue?
If there's any discussion, I prefer the old outline.
Okay.
Less confusing.
Okay, our motion is to approve the payment of the following invoices for payment for the services rendered, and they are all listed there.
Second.
Questions? All in favor? Opposed? Motion to approve the request to establish the student activity funds as listed.
So moved. Second.
Questions?
Are these activities that are already,
No, the next one's the new ones.
These are the new ones.
but this is to
the next one's gonna be-
establish student activity funds. So I'm assuming then the activity club that's listed, that they're listed are already
In progress.
in progress. They're just asking for an activity fund. That's correct.
Mrs. Controller, these ones, the two that you're voting on are to establish a
Right.
new student. So I'm reading their application here. And so these were clubs that are they're establishing their activity fund. So I'm imagining they're a new club that was just established at their respective schools. So they're brand.
I don't know if they're.
Okay.
So I wouldn't be able to say that because I would have to go back to Steve. Did we approve new?
This
scheduled
this
date?
form says 1920 on it?
I know,
It's
that's
an old
why I
form.
was,
Okay.
yeah, but that's.
It's an
why I
old
was-
form.
I mean, the reason why I say that is because we had
January
made that,
28th.
we had that discussion
Yes.
about, new clubs and activities and how many and all that kind of stuff. So that's why I was asking.
Yeah, no, it's a good question.
I mean, I haven't obviously been teaching for 5 years, but I don't recognize those two, so that's why I asked
Mhm.
if they were new or not. That's all. I mean.
I might want to
happens
join the
and
junior rock
Right,
band.
fine.
That sounds like fun.
Fine.
What?
You could see who the advisor is. I'm one of. Oh,
Student has to apply for that.
yeah.
Okay.
But
any
the
other
principal
questions?
signed off on it.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? All in favor? Opposed? Okay. Motion to approve the request to renew the already established special activity fund for the JTL memory book.
So moved.
Second.
Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion to approve the request to close the student activity fund for the high school North class of 2024.
It always makes me sad when I see this.
Yeah. mhm.
Second.
Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion to approve the contracts listed for the specific services, rates, and effective dates, subject to the review and recommendations of the solicitor and approval of the administration regarding the terms and conditions of any final contract other than price or cost. And you see the list there.
So moved.
Second.
Questions? All in favor? Opposed? Motion to approve the Colonial IU 20 operating budget for the 25-26 school year in the amount of $4,331,923 and no cents, with the East Stroudsburg Area School District's amount being $39,532 as previously distributed and presented to the board.
So moved. Second.
Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Before adjournment, any announcements from any of the board members? Yep, then
Motion, second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, everyone. Thank you to our public for hanging in there with us.
Okay.
Good night, Deb. Yeah, blame me for this one.
Tonight.